Looking for me? Barbecue, huh? How do you like your ribs?
Hey everybody, it's Chris Bumbury here again for JoBlo.com, where we're taking a look at the Carl Weathers action flick, Action Jackson. This one stars Carl Weathers as a cop named Jericho Action Jackson, and he's the toughest cop ever. I mean, this guy is so tough that when his chief gives him shit for ripping off a perp's arm, he shrugs it off by saying, relax, he had a spare.
Send him an engraved invitation. Look, kid, you come on down here. Join us at City Jail. Dress casual, RSVP.
You know he tore that boy's arm off.
So, he had a spare.
But Jackson's arch nemesis, auto magnate Peter Delaphane, played by Craig T. Nelson, is up to some bad business, knocking off Union delegates one by one while keeping his mistress, played by Vanity, hooked on smack, and his innocent wife, played by Sharon Stone, in the dark. But after getting Jackson demoted to sergeant, he's about to find out the hard way that they don't call him Action for nothing. Action Jackson.
Amen.
Let's get out of here.
Now this one's got music by Herbie Hancock and Michael Kamen, a very strange duo but an interesting choice for the 80s. And it's directed by Craig R. Baxley, who also directed I Come in Peace, also known as Dark Angel, starring Dolph Lundgren.
I come in peace. And you go in pieces, asshole.
Now, back in the mid-80s, Carl Weathers was riding high off the success of the Rocky series, specifically Rocky III and Rocky IV, which had much bigger roles for him, where Apollo became Rocky's best friend. Now, this endeared him to children all over the world who cried when stupid Drago killed him in Rocky IV, and let me tell you something, I was one of them. Well, his first star vehicle, a TV show called Fortune Dane, wound up cancelled after 6 episodes despite an awesome opening where he's just working out. Weathers got a juicy role in Predator where he hooked up with mega producer Joel Silver, who was looking to churn out a couple of franchise starters, which he did with Lethal Weapon and Die Hard. Now, the idea was to launch Weathers as an Arnold Schwarzenegger-style ultra-macho superhero type. Thus, you had Action Jackson. In Carl Weathers' words himself, a creation that came about when I was doing Predator and talking to Joel Silver, who loved blaxploitation movies. Joel said, well, you know, why don't you put something together? So this time we were shooting in Puerto Vallarta, I created the story and came up with the guy, or at least the title, Action Jackson. And Joel found a writer who wrote the screenplay, and that was it. We got it made. Now, predictably, critics were not very kind to Action Jackson, but it made decent coin. It only cost about $8 million and it grossed over $20 million, which was actually more than Steven Seagal's debut from the same year, Above the Law. Considering that it made twice what it did in theaters on VHS, Action Jackson could have easily gotten a sequel were it not for the fact that the movie was produced by Lorimar, a company who folded shortly after it was released, leaving the rights in limbo. Giving the modest return, Silver, who was flush with success after Die Hard and of course Lethal Weapon, probably had bigger fish to fry, and Weathers never quite made it to the next level as an action star. But let me tell you something, he should have. Now, Joel Silver is one of the few producers I wouldn't hesitate to say is actually the auteur of many of his films. They have a lot in common, specifically crazy over-the-top action, ultra-profane but pretty hilarious dialogue, often supplied by Shane Black, and usually scores by Michael Kamen, which is why this has some Herbie Hancock but also a lot of Michael Kamen worked in. Action Jackson is one of his more modest outings, more along the lines of Roadhouse or Ricochet. But the movie is definitely a Joel Silver production through and through, and he actually found a great larger-than-life hero in Carl Weathers, and it's a shame this turned out to be a one-off. Action Jackson really is a memorable big-screen cop. When the movie starts, he's already so infamous that just to scare a young criminal straight, the cops threaten to hand him over to Jackson, who they basically say is the illegitimate offspring of Bigfoot.
You might have to endure a little session with Action Jackson. Yeah, some say he didn't even have a mother. That some researchers at NASA created him to be the first man to walk on the moon without a spacesuit. Others say his mother was molested by Bigfoot, and Jackson is their mutant offspring.
They bring in Jackson when they want to re-educate some young ne'er-do-well.
Like Schwarzenegger, Weathers seemed quick-witted as opposed to the more monosyllabic heroes that followed like Seagal, Van Damme, and Lundgren, so they gave Jackson a law degree and early on let him wear a tux before slipping into classic 80s action hero mode, which is basically a Henley, and then of course oiled up and shirtless. Weathers himself has always appreciated that Action Jackson found itself a cult following. As he said in an interview, a lot of people are fans of Action Jackson, and I get asked all the time, are you ever going to do a sequel? I still maintain today that it could have been a better movie had they taken a little longer to develop the screenplay, but a lot of people liked it. Definitely Weathers is a lot of fun to watch, and even some of the more groan-worthy wines, like after wielding a flamethrower he asks a baddie, how do you like your ribs?
Barbecue, huh? How do you like your ribs?
The action, while not as expensive as Lethal Weapon, is tight with a good fight opposite the late Sonny Landham early on and a cool car chase, which opens up with an amazing line where Sharon Stone asks Carl Weathers, "Why do they call you Action?" and so on and so forth. And I have to say, the ladies are absolutely smoking hot in this movie with a young Sharon Stone and Prince protege Vanity as his love interest. Now, one area that Action Jackson arguably comes up a little bit short is the villain department, with Craig T. Nelson pretty stock in an 80s yuppie villain mode. Now, perhaps sensing this, they tried to make him into a bit of a kung fu badass, but the doubling here is unintentionally hilarious, as is the notion that Craig T. Nelson could possibly be a threat to Carl Weathers, who looks like he's forged of iron. That said, their final fight, as cheesy as it is pretty memorable. Spoilers ahead, but come on, it's an 80s action movie. How do you think it's going to end? Of course it's going to end with a fight between the bad guy and the good guy. But look at Craig T. Nelson's legs here. I mean, they look like they're matted in or something. It doesn't really make any sense. Or like they're swinging a mannequin's legs at Carl Weathers. It just makes no sense at all. But, you know, I kind of like it, and it works in an 80s way. Also, Craig T. Nelson has something very strange going on with his hair in this scene. I mean, it looks like his hair is made of silver or metal. I don't get it. Anyway, Action Jackson definitely has a bit of a cult following, and thus it's been treated better on home video than a lot of other titles, thanks to having a half-decent distributor, Warner Brothers, who picked up all of Lorimer's films, and they put out a nice Blu-ray after years of nothing but a full-frame DVD a couple years ago, and there's also a good digital HD copy available pretty much everywhere. So, you gotta look at it this way. Action Jackson is high cinematic cheese, but it really is great for what it is, and a damn good time. In my mind, it's a minor 80s classic that never really got the full-on cult status it probably deserved, as something like Roadhouse did later on. And Action Jackson is just ripe for discovery, so if you're into badass action flicks of the era, you can't do any better than Action Jackson.
Jackson. Jericho Jackson. There's a nickname associated with it, isn't there? Something like excitement, enthusiasm, esprit de corps?
It's action.
Thank you for clicking on our video, everybody. If you like what you saw here, please make sure you like the video and subscribe and share with your friends who like this sort of content. Joe Blow was created by movie fans for movie fans, and we appreciate your support.